2024. Heart Health 2024. Okay, so it's our second workshop of the year. Who came to the first workshop and you're on a roll? Yes, that's like 50% of the room. We have a goal to make every workshop this year. We're 2 down. We got 5 more to go. Congratulations. Just for you who's already come to another one, and if this is your first one of the year, the first thing you want to do tonight is just congratulate yourself and express gratitude to yourself for making your health a priority, coming to a doctor's appointment or doctor's office on a Tuesday night, this time of night when you've had already probably a hard 2 days. You could be eating, you could be cleaning, you could be preparing for tomorrow, you could be doing laundry, you could be taking care of the kid. There's so many other things that you could be doing that you could justify are more important than coming here. And I'm so proud of you for not having done that and justified and the fact that your health is your number one priority. And taking care of your health is truly your greatest asset. If you lose your health, what happens? You lose, everything stops. It no longer matters what kind of car you have parked out front. Doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. None of it matters. You think of Steve Jobs, died as a quadrillionaire, and then you have someone homeless on the street, both get cancer in the exact same playing field in the same boat. So this is just one more step this year to making this your healthiest year ever, your best year ever. This is certainly a journey we're all on. This is not a destination that any of us have arrived to, even us, your doctors here. This is still a journey that we're all on, so we have grace with each other. So we're going to plug away tonight, just keep plugging away at this old body of ours. I'm just kidding, not old body. This amazing, inspired by God, perfectly, wonderfully created body. And we're going to talk about our cardiovascular system. Now, a lot of times when we talk about our cardiovascular system, you know, when I do our doctor's report is the meeting where you look at your x-rays for the first time ever. And we're going to explain how chiropractic care works and how the corrective care process and where you fit into that, right? Everyone remembers their own appointment doing that, if you're a patient. Now, when we ask in that appointment, what do you think is the most important system in the body that controls everything? What's your number one organ and system in the body? I get 2 answers, and it's 50-50, and that's right. And the other 50% is the heart, Dr. Becky, it's the heart. And the other 50% say the brain, which you already know. Most of my patients know that it's the brain, of course. But the heart is the second most popular answer because we have been just inundated and conditioned to the importance of our heart health. What happens if our heart gets sick? Taking care of our heart. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in the media. It's in you learn in school. It's on TV commercials. It's everywhere. So sometimes we only end up focusing on the heart is the only and most important part of my body when it's not. All 5 essentials or multiple areas of the body, everything is just as important. But the one system that controls the function of the heart, which is what, patients? This is the brain and the central nervous system. So if the central nervous system is not being addressed, is not corrected, or in the process of being corrected, your heart health is never going to make it to where you want to be. And so tonight we're not going to talk the whole discussion about the nervous system. For my guests, I'll touch on that at the end. We are going to talk about now taking care of your heart. But don't even bother trying to go all the extra miles to prevent heart disease and treat heart disease naturally. I don't even encourage you to bother going down that road if your nervous system is left damaged, unchecked, untreated, and ignored. Because it is true that the heart does not control the function of the body. The heart does not have its own brain. What controls the heartbeat? The nerve to your heart. So your brain creates a signal, it tells your heart to beat. If you cut the nerve to your heart in half, what is going to happen to your heart? It will stop beating and die. So we don't have that in here. Nobody has severed nerves. You wouldn't be alive if you had that. So what happens is, but if you block the nerve flow or decrease it, the heart will start to get sick. But that part of heart health is missing in our entire discussion in our country about heart health. So we know, my patients, you know that very well, that taking care of the nervous system, which is what controls the heartbeat, is number one. Now that we're doing that, now we make wise choices to help the heart, the organ itself, and support it. So that's what we're going to talk about the rest of the evening tonight. My goal is that you can come away with 1 or 2 action steps that you can start doing right now tonight. Like, this is it, I'm committing to it. Please no one walk away saying, Wasn't that great information? Honey, that was such a great talk. I have all these notes. That was great. And then you never look at the notes again, and you don't do anything different, and you go about the exact same life and choices the rest of the day, and that was it. And you're like, oh yeah. And then next year the heart talk comes around, and you're like, I already went to that last year. That's why some people didn't come back. Well, are you doing everything we talked about? That's always enough, right? So what are we gonna start doing? 1 or 2 things that we're gonna start doing tonight. Maybe you're in an advanced crisis with your heart health. Maybe you've had some diagnoses already. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, stroke risk, already had a stroke, etc., and you're in one of the more urgent categories. Well, I might recommend we adopt 3 to 4 things that we can commit to tonight to do differently. Is that fair enough? So you have to, we're not gonna all raise our hands and let everybody know what level of heart health we're at. We could be at just the prevention and my heart's awesome and great right now, or we could have many medications and be on the door on the tipping point of having an emergency or a cardiac event, or we just had one. You have to put yourself on that scale, take it seriously, and know, where am I gonna do, how much am I gonna commit to? But what we're not gonna do is walk around with notes that you never opened again, like church one day. When you went to church, you took notes, you never looked at them again. Do you know if you go back and look at those notes, it can almost be as powerful as the Word of God because they were based on the Word of God, and which is living and active, and so can the notes that you take from church or from here. Isn't that cool? Go back. Miss Mary, this is one of my very good friends, Miss Mary. I introduce her every talk. We've been friends for 20 years. She's been coming to workshops since the day we opened this office 8 years ago. And she's been coming to almost all the workshops, and she takes notes, and she still sits there and asks questions. That's awesome. And let's strive to be Mary. Like, let's strive at it. We're still here, and we're taking notes, and she still studies on her own, and she's like, this weekend she came to my house. She's like, hey, Dr. Becky, have you heard of so-and-so guy? And I'm like, I haven't heard of him, because she studies, I think, more than I do. And she's like, have I heard of this guy? She's like, let me share this podcast with you. It's 2 hours, but I'm gonna share. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna listen to that. Can I get the clip notes of the 2-hour podcast with my friend Mary? So we wanna maybe we can have that in our mind, like we're gonna just strive to be a Mary. So here's what we wanna strive to get away from. Let's take a 1-minute video of the reality here. I need something to turn up the volume. I can't get it.
Can I get a, could be developing diabetes. Answer exchange.
You're graduating! Watch TV. You want to go to sleep?
You can't do this.
Yes, can I get
Yeah, no, I need to.
You have to make a change. Good job, Jim. You got an A+. Here are your fries, sweetie.
Still can't believe you get this job for this.
I know. It's the only thing that'll make him stop.
So there's still time to reverse the unhealthy habits that we've made. So whether that was a reality that you've experienced as an adult or a kid or your kids or your grandkids, this is why we're gonna make different decisions leaving today, so it doesn't end up you being on that table in that situation, or your child end up being on that table in that situation. So when you're thinking about what steps can I take for that, for my heart, let's first recognize the incredible organ that God created in our heart. You know that your heart pumps 2,000 gallons of blood per day? That you can't even probably think of 2,000 gallons of milk laying up. That's how much your heart is, and it never stops. It goes your whole entire life. Each day, on average, your heart beats 115,000 beats. What, like, that's almost kind of something we can't even think about. Imagine the strength and the perfection of the muscle that God created in your body that never stops beating and literally beats 115,000 times a day every day that you're alive for 80 to 100 years. I'm not gonna do the math right now, but that's billions and billions and trillions of beats. That's incredible. What if you had any other muscle in your body? What if you were just using your bicep and you did like 115,000 bicep curls in a day? Could you imagine? Like no other muscle in your body could ever do that. It's just an amazing potential that your heart has to be able to keep you youthful, to be able to keep you energized, to be able to keep you living life on your own terms at the end of the day. If you take care of it, it certainly will take care of you. So you have, what happens though is we've made choices in our society that have led to this fact, which is the number one cause of death in the United States is heart disease. Is that surprising to anyone?
Nope.
It's not surprising to anyone. Does anyone, in fact, raise our hand here if you have, whether it's yourself or someone that you know or a family member that has struggled with some form of heart disease. So raise your hand for that.
Including death.
Including death. Thank you, Richard. Okay. And I myself included. So I don't meet anybody anymore that's not in that category. Here's a couple stats for you. Cardiovascular disease is listed as the underlying cause of death, accounts for nearly 836,546 deaths in the US. That equals about 1 out of every 3 deaths in the United States. There is a nearly 40% increase since 2015. There's an average of 1 death every 38 seconds, cardiovascular related. And this is very disturbing. For the combined the indirect costs, all the different costs involved that the medical system and the healthcare system spend on people with cardiovascular disease is currently $555 billion yearly. And it's expected by 2035 to be 1.1 trillion. So there's so many other ways that money can be spent. And unfortunately, it's being spent most of all because of our lifestyle choices. And this is not a surprise, nor right now am I gonna do a lecture on a topic called epigenetics. I'm not gonna do that. But this is in a very important field of study for this talk tonight. Epigenetics is the study of genetics, but it's a study of it in a different way. Bree, can you come and check your computer for a second, please? So it's a study of it a different way. So what happens is most of us have been, well, my patients know because I've already blown this out of the water for you multiple times, but most of us end up having, we just have this, we fall back on genetics. Like, hey, doc, I just have high cholesterol. I'm on all these medications for high blood pressure because of my genetics. My dad had it, my mom had it, my grandma had it, everybody in my family had it. And then we end up using the genetic card as the excuse to not change the way and change the choices that we're making with our health. Because you've been taught to do that, if I would add. You've been taught to say that it's your genetics, so it doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna get it anyway. It's your genetics, so it doesn't matter how you try to now treat it naturally because you're gonna die from it anyways, because everybody else has already in the family. So that's not the case. When you look at the study called epigenetics, epigenetics tells us very clearly over the past 20 years that yes, you may have a predisposition to a genetic tendency for some type of health issue. You may have that. But the lifestyle choices that you make are now being shown clearly to either turn on or off the expression of those genes. Now this is great news and heavy, scary news. It's great news because we can make choices in our own lifestyle that can cancel out the effect of any of those potential genes that were passed down that had a bit of a predisposition. We can cancel, we don't have to live with it anymore. We can make our lifestyle choices through our 5 essentials that does not have to show up in our body. Or if it did, we can remove it from our body. This is great news. It's heavy, scary news because it puts a lot of responsibility right back on you, doesn't it? Which is where it belongs, because health is whose responsibility? Health is their responsibility. It's not due to genetics, it's not the pharmacy, it's not the health insurance, it's not your doctor, it's not your mom, dad, or kid, it's our own responsibility. So we have to take the responsibility back and say, oh, well, now we know my choices make a big deal, even if my mom, grandma, great-grandma, great-great-grandma, all the way up the chain, even if everybody had high blood pressure. You still don't have to have it. It's about 3 to 5% of diseases that are truly 100% genetic. So, and it's not cardiovascular disease. It's not one of those that are truly all the time. So this is cool, and it's good. It puts us back. So let's talk about, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to not become, this is just a few more stats for you. Any of these pictures you can take pictures of if you want to, if you can't write down fast enough, but I'll just read through these quickly. Right now, 47.3 of Americans over 20 have high blood pressure. 57% of black males and 55% of black females have high blood pressure, which is hypertension. Now this is an older stat, now it's updated to 1 every 3 deaths. The rest of the stats I already read. Look at the bottom one. This is where I want to draw our eye to, because this is very disturbing. We now have a group of 15 to 19-year-olds where when they've studied several groups, 60% of them now have plaque in their coronary arteries of their heart, and they're teenagers. And that did not start to happen in since the 60s on. This wasn't if you look at the history of heart disease wasn't even a thing that people barely ever died from prior to 1960. And now it just continues to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's not rocket science why. What are some reasons why, especially young kids, teenagers are getting coronary artery plaque?
Processed food.
Exactly. Processed foods. You look at it. The diets has changed. The pharmacy. Exactly. Our chronic intake of medication, which causes more inflammation to the body. How about stress? We have exactly. We're all nodding our head. Stress is on. As a whole, I don't remember. I wish I had to. It was just this week earlier. I was driving and I heard a stat on the radio that was talking about. Teenagers, high schoolers, and the percentage of high schoolers that were struggling with depression was higher than it was 25 or 30 years ago in a mental ward of a hospital.
Social media.
So it's very disturbing, the amount of stress that we're under, the amount of what our young people are dealing with right now, and then our exposure to toxins is through the roof. You can't even get carpet in your house anymore without the off gases of it killing you. You can't even paint your house, but you're supposed to leave the house, So it's you can't really get away from it. I always joke about going to live on a deserted island near Fiji or something. So, but now I don't even think you can go to Fiji. I don't know anywhere you can go where you're not exposed to toxins, which are destroying our body's ability to heal. So those 5 areas of health, what are those called, patients? 5 what?
Essentials.
5 essentials. Those are not a menu where we can pick and choose, you're at Panera Bread and you're I want the you pick 2 menu, give me the salad, the half sandwich or whatever, which I don't promote anymore because they're all GMO now. So I'm not promoting it. I'm actually not promoting it. But that those menus, you can't treat your 5 essentials like that. At some point we have to address all 5, each one, for our bodies to continue the healing journey and get closer to that max capacity of healing that God intended your body to be. So this is just one more night of tonight. One of the things you can do is think, well, which essential in my life have I not touched too much? What have I not done? What did I do this year? If any of you are joining our 30-day challenge at the beginning of the year, congratulations if you're here and you did that. That was amazing. Maybe now you pick a different essential to focus on. Maybe we do something for this next quarter. Maybe you've never experimented with detoxing before. Maybe we do that here coming up. Our next talk in June is going to be about detoxing. So you got to figure out which essential you can jump onto, study, and Mary. So, what essential are you studying right now, Mary? Why don't you let us? Do you have one?
I usually stick to the health and nutrition.
I think you could have a nutrition degree by now, Mary. Okay, another thing that's happened is that we've been completely scared away of fat. And so you guys remember, well, many of us here are older to remember when the low fat craze just came like crazy. And everything we needed to eat low fat, everything. This was the key to heart disease. It was the key to prevention of things. It was the key to everything. We eat low fat. And all of a sudden they started making everything low fat. If you study the process that a food has to go through to become low fat, where they extract the natural fats that were in something, for let's say a cheddar cheese, and they extract it, the chemical and the engineering process that has to happen to extract that destroys the food. It destroys the enzymes in it, the naturally occurring parts of it that your body is beneficial for you and that it can help it break down. So when that happened and we stopped eating healthy fat, the heart disease rate went way up. Well, now the tides have turned, and it's become very clear and evident now that we need healthy fat in our body. And we're gonna talk about some differences in healthy fats in just a moment. But this is a big component that shifted the tides from not too much heart disease to a lot of heart disease when we went to the low fat. Other key risk factors are when your cholesterol numbers are completely off the chart, the high blood pressure totally off the chart, smoking, you're not exercising, and subluxation in the neck. Subluxation, does any of my patients ready to raise their hand and declare what is subluxation? Can we do it? Who feels confident? Okay, then I'm gonna do, can you do it? You wanna try it?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Subluxation of the cervical vertebra is
You can
generally
sit down and do
caused
it.
by an unusual atrophying of the muscles that support said vertebrae, so they tend to scrunch up.
Well, that's pretty darn close. It scrunches up, hey, that's good. So they'll scrunch up, the vertebrae gets affected, and the nerves get scrunched up. I've never used the word scrunched up, but that's actually a good way to think about it. If your nerve gets scrunched up, they're not, the message won't carry through if it's all scrunched up. So we gotta unscrunch it up, and that would be the message going to the heart in particular. So subluxation, your neck nerves control your heart function. So when there's subluxation in the neck nerves, the heart is one of the major organs to be affected by that. Okay, let's break down a couple, let's get into some nitty gritty here, okay? So we're gonna talk about cholesterol, high blood pressure, and vessel disease, which can more commonly be associated with a risk for stroke, or you have already had a stroke, etc. So we're gonna hit those three topics, because these are usually the most popular parts of cardiovascular disease that you have questions about. So first of all, what is cholesterol? Well, first of all, is cholesterol the enemy of all enemies?
No.
It's not. It's not. Cholesterol is this like wax, like a soft waxy substance. It's kind of gross, but you can think of like your earwax kind of. So if you're like, you're like, oh, I get that, earwax so it's kind of like that. It's it's made by the liver, and it travels through the body in two different forms. One is called high density lipoproteins, and the other is called low density lipoproteins. And so those are the two forms of cholesterol that go through. Now, we're not going to get super biochemical here tonight, okay? We'll just do just enough science and then a lot of action. But what happens, so the low density lipoproteins have gotten labeled as bad cholesterol. So what does that stand for? Low density lipoproteins. What do you normally see that looking like on your blood work? LDL. So your total cholesterol, then it'll say LDL, then it'll say HDL. So your cholesterol is responsible, listen to the important things that your cholesterol is responsible for. It's the cleanup substance, so when you have an injury to an artery or a vein or a vessel, cholesterol is sent there to help clean it up. It produces vitamin D, so when you get exposed to the sun, and then the sun has some chemical reactions that take place in your body, and it's converting cholesterol to vitamin D. And so vitamin D, how important is vitamin D? Extremely, the most important substance for your body of every nutritional supplement that you could ever take. If you only had one to pick from your whole life and you couldn't pick any other one, it would be vitamin D. And this is because, especially where we live, we don't have the luxury of having enough of our skin exposed to the sun enough of the day to have our body to create enough vitamin D. So this is a note to take notes on. When you look at your vitamin D on your blood work, unfortunately, the lab is going to tell you that it needs to be greater than 30. And this is about 20 years behind the science, and the labs haven't caught up yet. It actually needs to be between 60 and 100. I'm sorry, 80 and 100. 80 and 100. 80 and 100 is where we really want your vitamin D. 30 is enough to prevent rickets disease, which is like a bone disease of a long time ago. 30 is not enough to increase your immune system function, your cardiovascular health. It's not going to do it. It has to be up in those higher numbers between 80 and 100. So I encourage you to look at, many times you bring your blood work to me from your doctors, and most of the time the vitamin D is not part of those panels, which I don't like that. That's why I'm starting to get a program going here where we're gonna start offering checking blood work here, and I work with a naturopathic physician as well to help with the interpretation of that. So we're gonna be starting that very soon, so you can kind of skip the traditional medical route to do that. But, at least for right now, you need to ask the vitamin D be added in most cases. Or you're gonna walk yourself over across the street, at least for the next few weeks until I get the program going, to the Any Lab Test Now. And you just walk in there, because you don't need a doctor to order any test in there, you can order whatever you want on yourself. You just walk in there, and now you need a vitamin D level, it's about $60 or $70, something like that. And you get a vitamin D level, and you're gonna check that. And if the vitamin D is less than 80, then we're gonna need to bump it up. And so bring that to one of our doctors, and we can customize and share with you how to bump that up quickly. That is a key to the cardiovascular health function. So without cholesterol, you can't make vitamin D. What else can you not make without cholesterol? Hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol. What cortisol hormone is when, if someone's breaking into your house at night and you gotta like get up and take care, defend yourself and take care so you don't get, that's cortisol waking you up and doing it. You're gonna save your life with cortisol. Cortisol can't be made if you don't have cholesterol. You see, these are life or death hormones that are needed in your body that cholesterol is responsible for making. So we wanna treat it as your body's repair substance instead of the enemy. So if you have cholesterol that's gone up very high, now let's define high. Let's talk about that for just a second. Some of you I know have lived long enough to remember when a cholesterol of 300 was acceptable in the medical world. Yep, under 300, you're good, you're fine. And then a few years later, they scaled it back to 260. You're under 260, you're fine. That's okay, just to be under 260. And then they scaled it back again to 200, where we're at now. So now it has to be under 200 or you're at risk, you're gonna have heart disease, you're gonna die from it, you're gonna have to be on medications. And you know, every time they scale that down, particularly this last time it went from 260 to 200, you know there was instantly 42 million Americans that now needed to be on the medication for high cholesterol in that moment. You understand that? Exactly. It's all about this. Who in the heck is trying to say that 260, 300, 200, 180, who's trying to say that? The reality is, and this is what we believe here as Max Living chiropractors, that your body was fearfully and wonderfully made, number one. Your body was designed to heal. There are no forces within your body that are gonna work against itself.
Right.
Your body is not gonna produce anything that's gonna kill you. It's not gonna produce a poison in your body to kill you. Your body won't do that. It'll do everything it can to try to save your life and protect you. So if the cholesterol is going up, there's a reason for it. And this is where I want us to graduate our thinking for. Like, not that something is wrong with me, but like there's a disease process going in my body. There's something happening in my body. There's a problem somewhere and my body is trying to repair it and it's trying to keep me alive. A mentor of mine, co-founder of Max Living, Dr. Greg Loman, about 10 years ago, he didn't know, but his cholesterol had went up into the 800s. And he's like a bike rider, he's like thin as a rail, he's this small, he's 5 essential life, 30 years. And so he's gone different doctors, natural, conventional, and they're like, nobody can figure out, why is his cholesterol 800? Yeah, that was a scare. So then finally it turns out they got tested and he had Lyme disease. So he'd gotten bitten by a tick when he was on one of his bike rides in the woods, didn't know about it, and he ended up with Lyme disease. So now his body is responding, his immune system is responding in a way to try to keep him alive, and one of the things it did to try to repair itself inside was to raise the cholesterol. There was a reason it raised up. So once he started treating and supporting his immune system, now not everybody has Lyme disease with high cholesterol, okay, this is one example. But once you find the underlying cause and you start treating that, then his cholesterol came down, and now it resides around the 200s, which is what it was, which is a natural, healthy area to support your body. But I want us to be careful with saying and defining ourselves like I have high cholesterol, it's really bad. Let's start saying, well, I have high cholesterol, I gotta figure out my body what process is going on that's causing that cholesterol to rise. Now, what happens if we just throw medication at it, which is what they're gonna tell you to do? What's the medication that you're gonna get for high cholesterol? Ends in the word statin. There's multiple statin medications, but if it ends in the word statin, S-T-A-T-I-N, that's a cholesterol lowering medication. Now just think for a second, if you take a cholesterol lowering medication, and it will lower your cholesterol, because they're chemically designed to alter the natural process of your body and stop the cholesterol production. That's what they're designed to do. But remember, your body needed that for something. So we lowered it, but the reason it needed it is still not addressed, because the medical profession is not gonna address that. They're not even gonna think about that. They just wanna make sure the number on the paper is lower. But now that you know that the number on the paper went higher for some reason, you don't wanna just be rest and, happy with the fact that the number just became lower. You wanna continue digging, well, why did it become lower? What do I need to fix in my body so I can stop taking this statin and it will stay in a healthy area and it won't continue to go up, up, up. Now here's the thing. This is very disturbing. I don't have a license to tell you to stop or start a medication, okay? So I'm gonna tell you for the record right now, you gotta work with your doctor, you gotta tell them, hey, my goal is to get off of this statin medication and find the root cause, and if they say no, fire them and interview another doctor. Because the best doctors are the ones that help you to get off medication to find the cause, not help put you on more. That's gonna be a hard thing to do. So therefore, I will provide counsel in this area, but I will not technically tell you to stop, start, or take a medication. But what are the side effects of cold turkey stopping a statin? Nothing. No side effect, no consequence, nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, I would venture to say it's more health if you stop taking a statin because of the side effects of statin. There was a study that was done in 1996. 5,000 people were studied over 5 years in a randomized trial about coronary artery disease, and it was comparing the cardiac death, so heart attacks. And what happened was we studied people who had higher cholesterol. So 5% of the people who had high cholesterol, but they were not treated, they had high cholesterol, they were not taking anything. 5% of them had an event, whether it was a TIA or a myocardial infarction or a mild or death. 5%. You know what the difference was in the people that were taking a cholesterol drug? 3% of people taking a cholesterol drug had an event. It was literally 2% difference. So that is not a statistically significant enough number for us to be living and suffering the side effects of statins, when the truth of the matter is it's not a major difference. It's barely measurable difference of people who die on a statin or off a statin. In addition to that, when you continue looking, I'm going to go through here for a moment. When you continue looking at the truths about cholesterol, there's multiple studies. This one here came from PubMed, the Science Daily magazine from 2017, where it was discussing that, and there's been many studies on this, you can look several of them up, but this one particularly, where there was more people who had a heart attack with lower cholesterol than with higher cholesterol.
Oh, no.
And they don't talk to you about this, they don't tell you about this, but it was a very defined and very clear and detailed study that it went down, like, if the cholesterol was over 260 to 300, there was statistically significantly more people above 260 who did not have a heart attack. When it was lower, particularly under 200, particularly under 150, far more people were having heart attacks.
Wow.
So when you dive deep into the research and not listen to the commercials and the things that come across your Facebook page and the TV and etc., and the things where the hundreds of billions of dollar industry are trying to sell the drugs, and you really dive deep in there, it's very evident and it's not even hidden anymore. Dr. DeBakey studies it. There's many prominent cardiologists. Oh, here's one right here. This guy is Dr. Jack Wolfson. He was a cardiologist in Arizona. Well, he still is a cardiologist, but he left the profession to take care of people naturally. So he wrote this book called The Paleo Cardiologist. You can go on Amazon and get that. I think you all should do that. He's a partner with Max Living. He speaks at our events. We use him as a resource. This entire book is written by a cardiologist who left the model knowing that the traditional interventions, particularly statins, are not helping people with their heart. They're actually making heart disease worse. Wow. The entire book. and he has an amazing website. He has very good information. I follow him on social media if you're on social media, so you can have something quality on social media. This is something that you're actually learning from. So that's Dr. Jack Wolfson, Wolfson, and you can get that on the Paleo Cardiologist. I strongly recommend that everyone goes and gets that. So the point of the matter is, and he'll go in to explain more, but the death rate is higher with low cholesterol than high cholesterol. So this is one of the other studies.
The death rate is higher?
The death rate is higher with low cholesterol than high cholesterol. I'm not blowing you out of the water right now, like we're moving and squirming in our seats, but when you go down deep into looking at it, here's another one from the Journal of American Medicine, Internal Medicine, where it went through the effect of statin treatment. I know you can't read that, so I'll read it to you. The effect of statin treatment versus usual care on primary cardiovascular prevention among older adults, 65 and older, primary prevention. They had a study. One got a pravastatin, which is a statin, one got a placebo. Placebo is gonna be what? A sugar pill. So it's literally a pill of sugar. So it's 1,400 people in each group, and there was an 18% higher mortality in the statin group. That was the Journal of American Medicine. That's the big one. That's significant. Now, isn't that interesting though that of the other 1,400 people who took sugar every day, extra sugar every day, the statin was worse than the sugar. Like this is not a good. So statins are clearly not the answer, but you are lied to and you are frightened, and they tell you every day you're gonna die if you don't take it. They'll dismiss you from their care. I've had several patients tell me they didn't want me to come back because I said I wasn't gonna take that. But you guys are getting the clue, because you come to us and you tell us, I don't think I should be on this, I don't wanna be on this, but my doctor says you're getting the clue, and they are getting the clue that you're getting the clue. You get it? But instead of like trying to figure out why, it's this. And now you have to, you're gonna die, you're gonna, and it's just like this fear and this kind of, what in the heck is happening? These are our doctors supposed to be helping us, live an amazing quality of life. Like, what happened to the medical system? Well, you know what happened to it.
I don't think
Big
they
Pharma
get-
happened to it.
Yeah, I don't think they get paid if they don't prescribe all this stuff.
Well, that could be a valid point.
The
She said that she doesn't
insurance
think they
has
get paid if
the
they don't
protocol.
prescribe
Follow the
stuff.
protocol.
They don't follow the protocol. So let's say this is a very famous heart surgeon named Dr. DeBakey. I even studied him when I was way back in nursing school. Many of you know I was an ICU nurse for 8 years prior to becoming a chiropractor. Way back in nursing school, he was coming up back then, and we were learning about heart disease and things from him. But then he says an analysis, just one more, just to drive the point home, an analysis of cholesterol values in 1,700 patients with atherosclerotic disease revealed no definite correlation between serum cholesterol levels and the nature and extent of atherosclerotic disease. So that's vessel disease, like cardiovascular vessel disease. Like, there's no correlation between it. Okay, so the first thing is, so we can, if our blood pressure, if our cholesterol levels have increased above higher than they have told you they should be, the first thing we're gonna do is not panic. We're gonna start using the 5 essentials and help treating our body from the inside out. So, high cholesterol frequently will go hand in hand with what other problem? Blood pressure. High blood pressure. If you don't already have both yet, and you didn't do anything, eventually you would get both of them. And I'm gonna go through why. But let's see, so if you're on a statin and you're gonna work with your doctor and get off of the statin, or make a decision to modify that and treat naturally and support your body naturally, as soon as you get off of that statin, or right now, even if you're thinking about weaning, or whatever you're thinking about, you're gonna need to take these 2 products immediately. One is called CoQ10, and the other one, of course, is vitamin D3. Vitamin D3, for reasons we just talked about. You've lowered the cholesterol, therefore the vitamin D production has gone down, you need to replace the vitamin D. So we're gonna immediately add the vitamin D3 with probiotics. Then we're gonna add CoQ10. Have anyone heard of CoQ10 before? Yeah, we all have. We know it's a very important nutrient, if you will, for energy production in the cell. And particularly cardiovascular effects. It has a heavy hand in cardiovascular effects. Statin drugs stop your body's ability to produce CoQ10 naturally through the cycle. Stops it completely. So some of the cardiologists are catching on to this and prescribing CoQ10 with statins. At least, it's a step. But most are not. So you are severely deficient in CoQ10 if you have been taking a statin at any point in your life. Even if you're off of it, you're deficient in it. So we need to add CoQ10 to the regimen there. That's how you're recovering from statins. Those are immediately the two. If you are currently taking a statin and you're gathering information tonight and thinking about presenting it to the doctor or considering what action steps to take with your statin, I respect that. But immediately tonight start taking CoQ10. Like, don't leave without it, because your body is not producing it, and that in and of itself will cause cardiovascular disease, which could be part of the reason for the results of the studies we just talked about a moment ago with the increased events with taking statins. So now let's talk about some natural nutrients that can help support the cholesterol balance. So the natural one is called plant sterols, one is curcumin, red yeast rice, and then of course CoQ10. So you can take a picture of that and we'll break them down. Can you guys all see from that? Yeah. So plant sterols is a nutraceutical, which is a fancy word for supplements. And plant sterols are derived from plants, and they're a component that looks, and your body thinks it's cholesterol. It looks very much like it in structure. So when you take a plant sterol, your body will think that it already has the cholesterol, and so it won't continue to produce high cholesterol. That's a powerful nutraceutical to take, plant sterols. It's actually not the first one that I recommend, but the next one is curcumin. Now, if you've been a patient here for a week, you already know that curcumin should be like next to vitamin D almost. Now, I'm working with promoting, if anyone from Max Living is listening to me, getting curcumin in your daily essential box. These are your 5 daily essential vitamins that all my patients get at least 30-day round of. They're little packets. They have 5 vitamins that are essential just because our food source is terrible, our soil is terrible, our exposure to sunlight is terrible. And so these are 5 that basically everybody is deficient in some way. But curcumin should be in there. Come on. It should just be already in there. So curcumin has, you know what curcumin is? Guys heard of it before? Yeah, it's the root form of turmeric, which is a spice frequently used in Indian cooking. It's a great spice, but hey, shout out, Indian cooking in the back. But it's a root form of that. And so this is an amazing thing that God put on the earth. So turmeric, it has anti-cancer benefits, significant anti-inflammatory benefits, significant immune system boosting benefits. This is why it should be just in the daily essential. It's such a versatile, well-rounded supplement. And you can't eat enough turmeric to get like a therapeutic dose to help the body's physiology. You can't just eat enough turmeric root to do that. So it has to be put into the root form called a curcuminoid and then put into a supplement. And this is becoming so popular now that you can get it, I think it's 7-Eleven. Like, I mean, it's everywhere because it's very popular. I've had several patients be able to get off of narcotics for pain by switching to curcumin. So it's a powerful anti-inflammatory natural pain reliever, but you do have to watch the quality now because of the prevalence of it. So they're catching on. What happens when we catch on that something works?
Cheap.
Oh, everyone's gonna make it, and then she just sounded like a bird, cheap. That's what's gonna happen. I think in the last year, Amazon got sued because somebody checked, actually they got a curcumin off Amazon, and they somehow did a study, they put it to a lab and studied it, and it contained like less than 20% or something of the curcumin that it said from Amazon. So you have to be very mindful. The most expensive supplements are the ones that don't work. The ones that, when you give you expensive poop, or expensive pee, it just comes right out and do anything for you. So this is why you get especially curcumin, because it's widely spread now. So you want to get the most bioavailable, which ours is the most bioavailable. They've updated the formula now, okay? Now, some of you guys who are a little bit more advanced in your natural healthcare research, you're going to tell me that, well, we heard that when they put black pepper in the curcumin, it helps your body absorb it better. And that was a lot of studies that did come out, and it looked like that was happening. But now, after the past 5 to 7 years since that came out, Now, unfortunately, that addition of black pepper has been causing IBS and leaky gut and problems in the wall with that chronic exposure to the black pepper. This is very new in the functional medicine world. So we reformulated it, Max Living did, here recently, like last year, to remove the black pepper and add in resveratrol and a couple of other ingredients to increase the absorbability and not have the black pepper in it. Okay, so now in the cardiovascular world, when you're considering the genetic component of cholesterol, which is when you get into things called APOA and APO, and there's different ways to measure inflammation and your cardiovascular health, which is going to be part of the testing that we're going to be coming out with, but it's part of the genetic component of why you would get a high cholesterol, which there is one small one. The amazing thing is that curcumin impacts the genetic expression of the one gene that actually is a genetic pass down. And it has been shown, and Dr. Wolfson talks about this a lot in his studies, if you wanted to look at them, that how that works and how curcumin is so powerful to get to that genetic in the APOE. It's just very cool snip. So this is why in the cholesterol bundle, for example, if you're looking to support your cholesterol naturally, I put a cholesterol bundle together for you. And so that does have curcumin in part of it, of course, and then another one called red yeast rice. Who's heard of that? Red yeast rice, which has CoQ10 in it, is a natural way to do kind of what a statin does, but it's not in a chemical form. And it'll help the body to start to balance the cholesterol production so that it's not out of control for too long. Mind you, none of these bundles am I promoting unless we're also simultaneously working through the 5 essentials to start healing the root issues in the body and decreasing inflammation. Just like a medication isn't, this is not an excuse to not change your lifestyle. It is not an excuse. And don't even get them if you're not going to do. Well, here's the thing. If you're not going to choose right now to make the lifestyle choices that I'm going to talk about in just a moment before we leave tonight, if you're not at a point in life to make a choice to start taking any of those big decisions, you have to take these. Because what are you going to do? Like, it's just going to get worse. Like, you have to do something. I'd love for you to not have to take these at all. Because we've just worked through our journey of the 5 essentials. We've balanced it, we've decreased our inflammation, our stress, our weight, our cortisol, our hormones have balanced, we've detoxed, and there's no need for any bundle. But until we get to that point, we do have to recognize that there are needs at times that supplements and nutraceuticals are needed, especially if we want to not take as much medication. And that's while we're on the journey of taking none of them. Because we don't need to anymore, because we've already balanced. Our cholesterol is healthy, and it's helping us instead of hurting us or leading to problems. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the cholesterol bundle, those two. Notice the red yeast rice has the CoQ10 already in it, so if you're getting the bundle, you don't need CoQ10 because it's already in there. Okay, let's skip over to high blood pressure for a moment, because these go hand in hand. All right, so look what happens. High blood pressure, well, let's think about what's high blood pressure. So think about the tube that your blood flows through. Okay, you envisioning it? It's a tube, your blood's flowing through it. Now, if you make the tube wider, what's gonna happen to the pressure inside of the fluid?
Slow down.
It's gonna slow down, it's gonna lower. So if the tube, there's blood going through a tube and the tube gets bigger, but the same amount of blood is passing through, there's not as much pressure in there. But if the tube gets smaller, same amount of fluid trying to go through, is that a tube? There we go. Right? What's gonna happen to the pressure on the inside of it? It's gonna increase. This is how we need to think about, like, visualize high blood pressure. So here's a little graphic that actually shows, on top is a normal artery. An artery is the vessel that your blood flows away from your heart through. And then the second one is a narrowed artery, so the tube got smaller. And the third one is completely occluded artery, so nothing can flow through it. So this is where we start to get the high blood pressure here, when the tube gets smaller. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, now there are of course times in our life when high blood pressure is, you need high blood pressure. It's normal, it's natural for high blood pressure. If you are, you get frightened, if you're in an emergency, if you're gonna go have a meeting with your boss that's stressful, if you have a deadline to meet, if your kids are acting crazy, if you can't, you know, if there's things going on then your blood pressure is gonna naturally ebb and flow throughout the whole day, and that's completely normal. It's completely normal for at any given time for 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, your blood pressure goes to 150, 160, 170, and then comes back down. That's completely normal all day long. What's not normal is if it just stays, and never goes down. Okay, so the first thing we need, before we get to the anatomy of what happens here, is recognize that when you're in like that stress, fight or flight mode. You heard of that before? I've used the analogy before, you've heard, if a tiger is coming to chase you, and you don't want to die from the tiger, your cortisol is going to go up, you're in your fight or flight mode, and your body's going to make a decision, what am I going to do to not die? And you're going to run and take off, or whatever you're going to do. But you've changed to a different part of your nervous system in that moment, so that you can respond to keep your body alive, so you don't die. Now that's not supposed to be the state you live in all day. That's supposed to be occasional, and you deal with it, and then you go back to like we are right now. Well, hopefully like you are right now. Right, and then you're just natural. But when we stay in those states of that high intensity, that high stress, that high fight or flight, and you stay there, and your blood pressure's up, and you never come out of that because you're not dealing with the root issue, whatever that might not be anything related to nutrition. Could be family, could be your past things you haven't dealt with, could be a whole slew of other things that maybe I can't help you with here. But if we stay in that, you see how your blood pressure is going to stay up here. It's going to stay up here. It's not going to come down. So that, you can't take a blood pressure supplement bundle to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta think outside the box and tap into all the resources that are keeping our body there. I don't want you to just be living in survival mode off of the BP blood pressure support bundle. Like as a long term, maybe in the short term, because something's happening in our life at the moment, maybe we had a death in the family, maybe we had, we moved or we lost our job or something, but as a long-term solution, that's not what how is that different than a medication? It's not gonna be different. So we wanna be always focus on what's the root cause, and I'm gonna treat the root cause of the issue. So when we don't do that, which is where many of us end up now because we don't, this is what happens to our vessel. So it ends up getting, look at what's, you see how the wall of the vessel has gotten bigger? That's because of inflammation. So we've heard of inflammation, right? This is what happens in almost all blood pressure. You thought, because they taught you, that every time you have high blood pressure, it's because you eat too many eggs and too much red meat and too much cholesterol, and now the cholesterol from the food goes right there and sticks right there and sticks right there, and then decreases the lumen, and that's it. That's why you get high blood pressure, and that's how you die and have a heart attack. That's it, as simple as that. That's totally wrong. That's not even how it goes. The cholesterol from food has again, Dr. DeBakey, very little impact as the cholesterol on food. You remember the Atkins diet a long time ago? So although there were some extremes that caused that concept to go downhill with kidney damage and things, but Dr. Atkins actually did some very valid research before it kind of went down that road, and one of them was the effect of cholesterol in your food that it had on your blood cholesterol was almost nothing. It's almost nothing. It didn't even matter. The cholesterol from the food doesn't convert into the cholesterol in your body and go right here and gather there. It doesn't happen like that. Why would anything gather here like that? Well, remember, what's cholesterol's point? It's a repair substance. So when your body has a problem it needs to repair, cholesterol is going to go there. Now go to the other one for a minute. Look at the second one. This has become inflamed. What happens when you cut your finger? What happens to it right after you cut it? 5 to 10 minutes, an hour later. Clots. Does it get red? Does it get swollen? It gets inflamed. Okay, that's a natural response because it was injured, so it got inflamed. And then your body has an amazing mechanism, and it goes and it heals it, and the inflammation comes down, it heals, and you don't have a cut finger for your whole life because it heals it. Okay, so cholesterol is part of what is sitting to heal it, but it had an injury. So look, This is inflamed. Well, inflammation only happens after what? An injury. So it was exposed to something. Something caused the inflammation there. Well, when your body senses inflammation, problem, error, broken, we gotta fix it. What's it gonna send to fix it? Cholesterol is one of the things it's gonna send to fix it. And if it stays injured and it keeps re-injuring, if I keep cutting my finger in the same place over every day, I cut it again every day, keep cutting it every day, it's gonna keep sending cholesterol over and over and over and over and over. And this is how eventually it's gonna plaque up or like that. Because we didn't actually fix the vessel, the injury. So it kept sending it. So what causes the injury? Inflammation is the injury. What is the number one cause of inflammation in your life, most of your life right now? Sugar. Sugar. Number one. Stress, subluxation. Those are the causes of inflammation. And injury as though like if I kicked you in the knee, but nobody's getting in your heart vessel kicking it. That's not something that's happening in your heart. So those are the only three things that are causing inflammation. So it's still coming right back to, well then we need to attack inflammation on all levels. I'm sorry, there's one other. Exposure to toxins and chemicals immediately will cause inflammation. So that could be medications of any other medication you're on for any other reason will cause inflammation in the body. Exposure to chemicals in your food, in your environment will cause inflammation in the body. So we have to start decreasing the inflammation so that the body stops thinking it's injured, so that it stops sending cholesterol to the area to repair it. You see what I'm saying? So if you have an injury and then your body is making cholesterol because it's sending it because it thinks it's injured, but then you take a statin and then it stops making it, but it's still injured, now you're gonna have a whole nother problem on your hands because the injury is still there, but now your body's not working, going through the process to repair and fix it, and now you have where the inflammation can also, this is another reason why they have a heart attack more, or the cholesterol level didn't matter, because now the inflammation is still there, gets bigger, and inflamed all the way until it's closed. Can blood flow through here?
No.
No, so then if your artery in your heart looks like this, what's that gonna cause? A heart attack. Myocardial infarction, which means death of the cardiac muscle. And so then it will stop, and then you have a heart attack. Okay, so hopefully this explains clearly, this is as sciencey as we're gonna get, of why statins do not prevent heart attacks, and there's not even a great science reason to take them. Because of how few people they actually help. But then they also will do this. If you have that's built up there because it's trying to heal the injury, then they're gonna go in here. There's 500,000 bypass surgeries, and then I don't even know how many millions of this is called a stent. This is what it looks like. They put this piece of metal in your artery, then they put a balloon inside, they inflate the balloon with air, that opens up the grid, and now the grid just pushes it open, but did it fix the injury?
Your wall causes more inflammation.
Yes. Now you have a piece of metal in your body, because now you have to take another pill for the rest of your life because your body is so amazing that it's gonna recognize it. It thinks it's an injury. It's gonna send it. Your blood's gonna clot. That's why you have to take blood thinners if you have a stent. So it's totally convoluted. You see it? So maybe you've already had a stent placed, and if you did, it possibly saved your life.
Yeah.
And so there's no judgment about it, but if you're on the verge or we're going in the direction where the doctor has said, hey, you might end up needing stents, you might end up, okay, well, let's immediately decrease the inflammation. If you've already had to have stents placed, my best friend's dad just had to have 2 stents placed. My grandfather had 4. This is a common thing to happen. Many of my patients had to have them placed. Okay, we didn't die, thank God. This is when we had a medical emergency and the medical system saved our life and we didn't die. But we certainly don't want to just camp out there as though that saved the problem. Thank God I'm okay now. We still have that root injury here that has got to be addressed. And that's going to be done through, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's done through the 5 essentials. So it's not complicated how it's done through. If it's an 8% increase in high blood pressure every time you drink a sugary drink. So we just think about that the next time. If every time you have caffeine, it will raise your blood pressure. So if we're dealing with high blood pressure, cholesterol, heart disease, we gotta, hopefully it's temporary, but we gotta cut the caffeine. go to decaf. Oh, maybe it's not for your whole life, but at least the time where you're struggling with it now, we had to cut that out. We got 73% of the food in the grocery store is ultra-processed junk right now. So we're gonna update that. Now look at this. Now we have to deal with something called Frankenfood. You wanna know an example? You wanna know an example?
Glyphosate.
They're starting to put crickets in the food now. You heard of it yet? Crickets. Crickets in the food because they're saying it's a good source of protein. And probably this is in light of another whole situation going on where they're trying to nullify the meat sources in the world where
I'll leave that to John the Baptist.
I do not promote eating crickets as your source of protein. I'll never promote that. But here's how you need to, this is what I pulled today off the internet. This is just a screenshot of my computer. So this is how you know if you have crickets. You gotta start looking at the ingredients now for crickets. Okay, this cricket is called Akita powder. You see, ACHETA. Better write that down. Akita powder is what it's gonna say. It's not gonna say crickets. It's gonna say Akita powder. Now we just asked, is there a difference between Akita powder and cricket powder? Akita powder is specifically refers to the powder obtained from Akita domesticus, the common house cricket. This powder is known for high protein, a mild nutty flavor, which is a popular ingredient in various foods. Some of the benefits, great for cooking and baking. Think of your next loaf of banana bread.
Oh my God.
Cricket pasta and a source for pet food and a source of sustainable protein. So they're gonna start throwing this in there. It was already approved in Italy recently to put crickets in the food. So you gotta read the ingredients now for Akita powder and put it right back there. They did another study, I didn't get to pull an image of it up, but it was of that substitute fake meat called Impossible Meat. Even if you follow a vegetarian approach or a vegan approach, even if you do that, do not use Impossible Meat. The Impossible Meat had 11 times higher glyphosate ingredient in the Impossible Meat,
That's Roundup.
which is Roundup. And so because it's made with plant, so there's not anything healthy about that. It might taste like it, but I'd rather you not eat it at all than that. So, okay.
That's weird ingredients.
It does have weird ingredients in it. So the longer the ingredient list, right, the less you want to buy that product. I'm gonna give you something right now to write this down. Is there a text link connected with the Shop with the Doc yet? So could we make that tonight and they can do this tomorrow? Or tomorrow we make it? How about call it shopping?
Yes, we
Okay.
can make a link and we will let y'all know exactly what that word is for that link. If not, I do have a QR code that I will have at the front desk at the end of tonight's talk, that if you feel comfortable with, you can come by and scan it.
And that is a link for my entire full version Shop with the Doc at Sprouts, if you didn't get to come with it. It's the full version, so that means it's like 2 hours, because it's every aisle in the Sprouts store. Now, I'm gonna be doing that again later, but if you wanna do that, and then we'll also make a link, where you can text back through your text messaging thread to where you get your appointments. And if you text back to that, I'm gonna make it shopping. So if you text back the word shopping to that, but not today, because we need to make it, so maybe like tomorrow night, then you'll get it, it'll come right to you, or you can scan the QR code. But I really go through in a deep dive and like how to pick and what to pick at the store, where I don't have time to do that today. So I encourage you to get that and to watch that. Did you have a quick question?
Yes, I've seen on the ingredient list of some products, it's almost at the last, it says bioengineered
Yeah.
products. What is that?
Bioengineered whatever, bugs? Bioengineered
It
bugs?
doesn't say what it is. It
Oh,
says
bioengineered anything.
ingredients.
Well, it means
And
that,
cereals and different.
it means that something, it was made. So it may or may not be genetically modified, but it probably is a special word, updated word now for genetically modified that sounds better than genetically, because we all know genetically modified is not a desirable ingredient to see on a list anymore. So where I can't be 100% certain, but it sounds very much like that's just an updated, upgraded word that is fancier, that's gonna throw you off.
Sophisticated.
Sophisticated way to say GMO, but anything that says engineered, whether it's bio or not, engineered means it's made, fabricated, was not natural.
Campbell's soup cans say that it's a GMO.
Right there on it.
Environment, yeah.
Isn't that sad? And it's a whole promotion to be like, this is a great thing, genetically modified is a great thing. It's a terrible thing for our health. It's one of the major causes of inflammation, major cause of toxicity. That's a conversation, that's a talk I'm doing in June on combating chemical, we'll do that. Okay, so what is something, let's look at this, here's the lumen, the hole of your vessel, this is your blood vessel, and you have two layers of your blood vessel, an inside layer and an outside layer, and this in between, this area, is called endothelium. You don't need to write it down unless you really like science. Endothelium. The endothelium part of your vessel can control and be affected to produce something called nitric oxide. This is fun. Nitric oxide will cause the vessel to expand. What happens when the vessel expands? Lowers the blood pressure, lowers the problem. The blood vessel's gonna get bigger. So if we struggle with high blood pressure, cholesterol, we want our vessels to be expanded. We want to do that, and we want not to use nitric oxide as the natural way to do that. Two ways to get that are both going to be important to get your nitric oxide. We are going to do one right now. So I'm going to be a demonstrator, and then you're going to stand up, and we're going to do one round of what's called a nitric oxide dump. A nitric oxide dump, write this down. You can Google Mercola, M-E-R-C-O-L-A, Mercola, nitric, M-E-R-C-O-L-A, Mercola, nitric oxide. And you'll see a video of the exercises I'm about to do for you in its full length. Mercola, nitric oxide, YouTube. All right, now the nitric oxide exercise is an exercise that you can do every day, and you can do it 3 and 4 times a day. And you can do it, and it'll take 1 minute, or you can take 5 minutes to do it. Well, actually, it's 3 minutes technically. So Dr. Mercola does it in the airport, waiting in line, waiting for his plane. So you can do it at work, you can do it in the bathroom. Our own team, before we come out and start adjusting you for the shift, this is one of the exercises that we rotate through. We do in that room before we come out. That's when we come out and we're like, hey guys, how you doing? We're all pumped up and excited. Like, you're like, how are people like this all day, every day? We're not all day, every day. That's why we have a break in the middle, so we can come back and be like that for you again. But we're also doing something in there to help get the nitric oxide increase in the body, increases the blood flow. Everywhere you have increased blood flow, you feel great, you feel better, decreases pain, and is excellent for the heart. And it's super, super easy. So here go the exercises. You want to video me, or you want to watch the video? Whatever you want to do, but here I go. All right, so the first exercise is you're going to put your hands like this, and you're going to go like this. And you're going to do this as fast as you can. This you can probably do in your seat. Full range. Full range. You're going to do this as fast as you can here for about 15 to 30 seconds. Depends on how much time you have, okay? If you have 30 seconds, great. Okay, that's one. The whole time you're doing these 4 exercises, you're going to breathe through your nose only. Do not open your mouth, so therefore you can't talk. Only nose breathing. That's how we activate the nitric oxide. So this is one. Number 2 is an overhead press. So fast as you can. You guys can do it. We can do it in our seats. I guess we don't have to get up. That's okay. And you do 25 to 30 seconds. Or 15 to 30 seconds. Okay? And then you stop. Now that's number 2. Number 3, I don't know the name for it, but it goes like this. Up and you hit your fists. Down and you hit your fists. Up, down, down. As fast as your little arms will go. And you try to get your arms high and low, high and low. So not, instead of like this, you got to try to straighten your arms as much as they'll go. Almost like a jumping jack. Fast as you can, breathing only through your nose. By the third one, it gets harder to breathe through your nose. But this is how the nitric oxide is going to build up. And then you're going to end it with squats. Now, I'm not going to do 30 seconds of squats right now in these shoes. But you're going to go here, you just squat as fast as you can. Baby squat or full squat. Fast as you can, squats, breathing just through your nose. And then you stop, and that's considered 1 round. Dr. Mercola discusses 3 rounds is best for the highest amount of increase in nitric oxide. But if you can get 1 round, because that's all you have time for is 1 round, man, I need to wake up, I am dragging, it's 4 o'clock, whatever's going on at home, work, I just got to get up, let me go in the bathroom. While you go pee, just stand in there and be, you're doing it. You'll be like, get out of your work, buddy. And you'll see, just me, even doing that, even partially right there, now I have another burst of energy to talk for another hour. I'm just kidding, I'm not going to. But that's what you'll get. So that's a natural way to increase your nitric oxide. Now, you won't keep the nitric oxide elevated the whole day like that. It lasts, I don't remember how much it lasts, he talks about it in there, 30 minutes to an hour maybe. So it's not like you're gonna be doing that every day, so if you also wanna add materials that can help increase your nitric oxide and help with the blood pressure support. These are, there's 5 ingredients that are very powerful, natural, herbal, that are made from the earth, not from chemicals. One of them is called bonito peptide powder. That's actually extracted from dried fish, a particular kind of fish that's been dried, and it's a long process unless you wanna go try to fish in another part of the world for these fish and dry them. That's not what you probably wanna do, so we take a blood pressure support pill that has that in it. Grapeseed extract, L-arginine. L-arginine is a very powerful, it helps with the blood pressure because it helps increase your nitric oxide. And then apple seed extract. And so those are some of the top 5 most powerful ways to relax the blood vessel to decrease the pressure, the blood pressure. So those 2 are in the blood pressure support bundle. So you have NOx powder. Now this is not, you don't put nitric oxide in a powder. Your body produces nitric oxide. So you have to give it things that help it produce it. You understand? And nitric oxide, NOx, nitric oxide support helps to do that. You take 1 scoop of this daily. And then the BP support, which has those ingredients in it here, all in one. This is a far better combination for you to try to transition towards than like lisinopril or amlodipine or the different blood pressure medications that are giving you the side effects of the chemicals that are in them. So here's what to do if you're already there's 2 kinds of people in the room right now. People who probably have been diagnosed with increasing blood pressure, or you're on the borderline, or you're not taking a medication yet, but you know, like they want you to, but you don't want to, etc. That's where you need to get these things on board for blood pressure and immediately start using the nutrition plans, the nitric oxide exercises and detox, of course, getting adjusted, you're already here. So and then we can prevent that almost in all cases if we do all of that. Then we have another who are already on the medications because you needed to be, because it got to a level of an emergency perhaps. So it is safe to take any of these bundles with the medication that you're taking. So if you're on blood pressure medication, you can also take the blood pressure. But the goal would be, my goal for you to hopefully have, is that by doing that, you are able to work with your doctor to start tapering the other one down because you're using a support that's natural. Hopefully with the goal of using less and less and less chemicals and more natural. Which if you're using the 5 essentials and using this natural support, you will be able to do that. Because the body was designed to heal. And you remove the interference and give it what it needs to heal, and it's going to heal. Even if you get to the point of taking less medication because you're adding the natural, that's still a victory than 100% of the same dose that you might be on. Does this make sense? Now, I will encourage you, if you already are taking medication and you add one of these bundles, I want you to take your blood pressure at least once a day after having had already taken this, at least a few hours, at least once a day, and keep a log for a week, 2 weeks. Because what I don't want to happen is your blood pressure to bottom out. And that I have seen that happen because these aren't just products that I just recommend anybody off the shelf. Like you've had a diagnosis, you have high blood pressure, and they are powerful. And so you can bottom out your blood pressure combined with this with the medication. So you need to be taking it and either contacting us or contacting the doctor if it's starting to get low, like 100, under 100, you know. All right, then we need to, guess what? Decrease the medication. That's exciting if that happens. But we don't want you passing out on the ground, okay? So we got to be wise and be taking it and seeing, like, where am I doing, where am I trending? So those 2 are the... Bree?
Yes.
Can you help me with your computer, please? Technical, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, then we'll add one more to the NOx, so that's, and we're gonna add to the blood vessel support. So the difference, blood vessel support is for 2 things. Either we have a risk for a stroke, we've had a stroke, we've had high blood pressure for a very, very long time. extremely high cholesterol for a very long time. That puts you at risk for a stroke. That's the reality of it. If we haven't dove into the 5 essentials and treated the cause, this is how we get things like strokes, because the blood vessels become so damaged. So to support the health of the blood vessel, one of the things that you do is you want to help to thin the blood, because the vessel becomes damaged. If the blood is under so much pressure and it has lots of healing nutrients flowing through it that your body's naturally putting in there to try to heal an injury, but it can make it thicker. And then you have damaged vessels. This is a very high risk for strokes, for heart attacks, for the emergent cardiovascular events. So the natural way, a great natural way, if you have risk of any of those, if you've been in this situation for a long time, is to support the blood vessel health with something called nattokinase, which is, in this one, this is a Designs for Health, which is. And you're gonna do this as fast as you can. Oh, that was my video. That's okay. This is a natural blood thinner, in short. And so again, not everyone takes this. You have to have a need for it. If you're on something, some patients, you would definitely have to work with your doctor for this, but to be able to use a nattokinase instead of like a blood thinner medication for things, if you've had a stent for a very, very long time and you're really trying to transition to not using actual blood thinners, this is a very powerful nutrient that can do that, called nattokinase. But you know if you're taking blood thinners, you know how it goes. They have to check the blood levels and you have to check you know how that goes. So you need to be doing that and make sure it's safely, but it is very feasible to do that. Now let's say you don't have a stent and you just want to have healthier blood, and you're at a lot of stress, you know the blood pressure's up, you know the cholesterol's, you know it's stress, then it's just healthy to go ahead and basically just thin the blood anyways. That's just a healthy thing we can do. It's not gonna, you can't really overdose on this to make it that you're gonna bleed out or something. But it's just a healthy, so your blood can carry the oxygen cells better through it. And if you combine that with the NOx support, think about it for a minute. NOx is opening the hole, the blood vessel, and then we're also helping the blood to become a little more thin so it can flow through it better. You see how blood pressure will be reduced and the stress on the vessel will be less. So that's called the blood vessel support bundle. Now some people who have very serious need all three, need to use all of them. And that's, again, hopefully that's not for a lifetime, but a temporary time while we're working on things like, and we're gonna highlight these, like the 5 essentials. So like you're using your daily essentials, which have, who takes the daily essentials or has taken them, has tried them, okay? You notice that one of those is a fish oil pill called Optimal Omega. The Optimal Omega is not in your bundles because it's already in here, and this is just a natural thing that you would take any day anyway, so we don't need an overdose on that. But those omegas are gonna help in there to decrease the inflammation of the vessel. I keep going back to that picture. Just imagine the picture of the vessel all inflamed. It's gonna help decrease the inflammation in there, and it's gonna help to also decrease inflammation throughout your whole body and also thin the blood as well. So that's a great omegas. Now also, there's been several studies showing that you can eat fish twice per week and decrease the coronary artery reduction by 36% by eating fish twice a week. Does anyone in here already eat fish twice a week? Good, so many of us do. Salmon and fish, yeah, we have to do that. So this is, if you don't, try to start. It's a great place to put the dollars towards getting a healthier wild-caught source of fish, which if you get I'll explain that in detail on the Shop with the Doc tour. So if we get that QR code or we get that link, we'll go through that. But what we want to stay away from is look at what they're starting to make now. They're going to start making genetically modified salmon. Oh, this is terrible. It's terrible. So this is what one looks like. That big giant one there, that's the genetically modified salmon. So it makes it that much more important that Frankenfood, that we get the wild caught salmon. I don't know about y'all, but I do use a company called Wild Alaskan. It's a company that sends fish once a month. I got it today. They put it to my doorstep. It has 12 pieces of fish in it, or 16 or something. So enough to be able to eat fish like 3 times a week. And it's very comparable in cost to getting that much fish at the store when you get it wild caught. And it's very fresh and it's good. So those kind of things you think outside the box. And then when we're looking, this is not complicated, and if you came to the workshop, the first one, you already know, decreasing that inflammation, healing the damaged tissue, has got to spend some time off of sugar. It has got to happen. It's called the Advanced Plan, Max Living Advanced Plan. It's where we're removing sugar completely from our diet. It's simple. And we're removing things that turn into sugar. Not as simple, but it makes sense. What turns into sugar?
Rice, potatoes.
Carb, bread, potatoes, pasta, our high sugary fruits like grapes and bananas and oranges. Those things turn into sugar, so we pause those while we're on the advanced plan. We stick to the berries and the green apples. Now what I want you to do here, you can write this down, take a picture of it, or do it right now. If you didn't already do it at the last workshop, in your thread of your appointment reminders, please text back to that nutrition plans, plural, nutrition plans. That is gonna give you a beautiful new document that is so easy to read, and it breaks down what foods are on the advanced plan versus the core plan. The core plan has the healthy carbohydrates added back in, and that's a basic way of life for long term. But if you're here because there's a cardiovascular issue in your family or yourself, maybe you're here on behalf of someone in your family that wouldn't have come, but you know they needed a bundle or they need to do something, you can have them watch this video and we can talk about that as well. But what they need to do is be on the advanced plan for a temporary time. How long is the temporary time? Until you see a result. I don't know. I don't. Depends on how sick and injured your body is. Some people need it for 60 days only. Some people need it for a year. So I don't know. We have to see the result, but it will drop down your inflammation. Didn't you do the advanced plan?
I'm in a lot better shape than I was before.
Can you do? I know I put you on the spot. I don't mean to do that, but I think you can handle it. What's an example? Give an example where you were before and where you were now. When one of the things that
Okay, so I've lost since December.
this is Edwin in the back.
Yes, I've lost 20 pounds. I went from 228 to 209. I got off one of my blood sugar medicines, which is metformin.
Awesome.
My body immediately, almost within 48 hours, felt different.
Yep.
I've avoided refined sugars as much as possible because, Christmas and holidays, and Elijah's birthday's today, so I have to take today. What else? I'm up to running about a mile and a half.
You're running a mile and a half. Put exercise back in.
And I stopped running when I left the military back in 2010.
Wow.
And went to nursing school, and that certainly, all affects your whole entire life.
Yes.
And gained a lot of weight and everything. And I'm up to running a mile and a half several times a week. I've gone back to the gym. I've done a lot of things.
And this is also a man who I don't think ever misses an adjustment. Like, I don't think you ever miss your appointment. And if you miss it, you immediately make it up the next week, which is what we do here for. Like,
Because life and work and things get in the way, and,
Yeah.
You try to stay faithful to your health, so you can be there
Yeah.
for us, 2-year-old, and him, and my wife.
and I'm so proud of Edwin because he goes to work every day in the medical model. So he's an intensive care unit nurse like I was. And so I know what he's going back to every day. And he's going back to all 12 hours a day of nothing, what we're talking about right now. In fact, it's the opposite, the antithesis of it. So imagine how much harder he has to work to just compartmentalize his mindset of doing this job and then actually knowing what's best for my body, which most of that is not the same thing, unfortunately. So I'm very proud of you. That's it. Thank you for sharing, even though we didn't plan that. Thank you for that. And so it's not super easy, but it's 100% worth it.
Oh, yeah.
And so so text, if you don't have, if you are a patient, you received a white folder when you started your advanced corrective care plan. And if you haven't opened up your white folder yet, now is the time to open up your white folder. Inside your white folder, there are 2 little booklets on the side of your folder. One of them says nutrition plans, one of them says a recipe guide. There's a lot of resources in that white folder that are substantial, and you paid for it. So open the white folder and use it. And so the nutrition plans, it also is a very nice little booklet, but the thing you'll get on the text is extremely user friendly just to help guide. And then you can use the booklets in the white folder and our website to give you some ideas for recipes and making those things that are on with the advanced plan foods on them. We're gonna include a recipe night here sometime in the next couple of months where we all can bring a recipe on the advanced plan and we can have a potluck and we can try different things. If you came to the 30-day challenge, we did that same thing and you got to try many things that were recipes that did not have grains, they did not have sugar, they were healthier options, and so we tried to, and they were good, and they're good. So if that's something you've never done before, we just gotta draw the line in the sand, like it's happening. If I'm here because I have a cardiovascular reason to be here, the advanced plan, there's not an alternative. It is what has to happen to decrease the inflammation and start to heal the vessel from the inside out. If you are a guest and you're not currently getting adjusted, or not at a Max Living office anyways, the absolute first thing to do is to get an x-ray of your spinal cord and your nervous system. Because if your neck is looking like this x-ray, which my patients, what's wrong with that x-ray?
Straight.
It's straight, the neck doesn't have the natural curve. Then if it doesn't have the natural curve, what's gonna happen to the spinal cord and nerves in the back of it? Are they pinched or are they free and clear? They're pinched. What happens if you pinch the nerve going to the heart? What's gonna happen to the heart?
Doesn't get
It
the message.
doesn't get the message and it gets sick. It's not complicated. So that this central nervous system, that is, if you're not a patient already, you never had the nervous system evaluated and checked, that's the first step to do. We don't have time to do that tonight, but I do have appointments that our team can look for you for those appointments here in over the next week into this week and next week. You're here with a friend, so you get the friends and family discount for that, which is $50 for an entire appointment, exam with the doctor, consultation, including a full set of x-rays if we find a reason to take them, which I will always. But we will take them to make sure that because we don't guess with your health or with your adjustment, they're based on x-rays. So we can do that, and our team, whether it's Dr. Theo or somebody at the front, can schedule an appointment and give you a new patient paperwork to be able to do that. That's immediate. For my patients here, if you've not been coming to your adjustments regularly, like Edwin, we can stop that, draw that line in the sand too. I'm gonna get it. If I'm on a once a week, I'm gonna get my tail here once a week. If I'm on a twice a week, I'm getting my tail on that room twice a week. If I have to reschedule my appointment, fine, reschedule your appointment to another day. We make up appointments, we don't cancel appointments. And by the way, do you get in there? Do any of the doctors, if you have back pain, do you think that we're adjusting you only so your back pain goes away?
No.
No one say yes. Because if that was the case, when your back stops hurting, why would you go back in there again?
Right.
Why would you go back in there again if your back stops hurting? Whoa, silence.
Keep it in shape.
To keep your central nervous system free and clear. We don't wait till something hurts to do that. We're to keep it free and clear because I want my colon functioning, my heart functioning, my lungs, I want all my organs functioning at their optimum capacity. And to do that, I have to keep my nervous system free and clear. So just a friendly reminder, we are nervous system doctors. Just because your spine is in your back, that's the only reason we touch your back. If your nervous system was in your left knee, we would all only be taking care of your left knees, you know that? But it just happens to be in your back, so therefore, we touch your back. But that's what, so that would be an action step for a guest here, even before getting any products, would be getting an evaluation of your nervous system, see where you're at, what's going on, whether or not you have back pain, that doesn't matter. It makes no difference. You can have back pain never, you can have back pain in 20 years, you can have had back pain already. It's irrelevant to whether or not the central nervous system is functioning or not. It just requires a proper exam, consultation, x-rays to know that. So we can look at that. For my patients, our upcoming events that I need you to be aware of. Next